The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening. There we go. Good evening and welcome to Bronxtalk. Tonight we celebrate Bronx culture. Our buddies at Seis del Sur, who are Conzo, Flores, Gonzalez, Franco, Pagan, and Reyes. It's not a law firm, no. 6 photographers who continue to renew their extraordinary work in photo coverage of the South Bronx and put a new show together that will have its opening reception on July 25th, which is this Friday evening, at the Bronx Music Heritage Center. So we'll take a look at some of that extraordinary work, and also we'll whet your appetite for the very wonderful and unique Music Heritage Center and discuss the heritage of the music of the Bronx with some samples. We're on tape tonight, so there won't be any phone calls, but you can, as always, send questions or comments to us at Bronxtalk at bronxnet.org or on our Facebook page, and we read those on the air during a future edition of our program. But for the here and now, 1/6 of Seis del Sur, the Conzo part. It is photographer Joe Conzo.
How you doing,
joining
guys?
us, and musician and producer, percussionist extraordinaire, multiple Grammy nominee, if I could only say it, Bobby Sanabria. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Gary.
Joe, let's start with you. I think Bobby's
Sure.
going to have to sit and be patient. I know he probably
course.
can't do that, but we'll find out because we want to talk photography first.
Sure.
Of all. Talk to me about what's coming up on Friday night. The
Well,
25th.
Friday night we have the opening of Seis del Sur, Sin Límites, meaning without limits. We did a great show about a year ago at the Bronx Documentary Center.
Which we promoted on this program.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And this is our second show about a year later, and this is going to be of our contemporary work that we're doing today.
Since then.
Since then.
Right.
Since
Maybe we
then.
should just back up a little bit so folks who are not familiar with Seis del Sur. What is Seis del Sur?
Seis del Sur
What
is
that
Spanish
law firm that I said?
for Six of the South.
Okay.
And Seis del Sur is basically 6 photographers, either born and raised in the Bronx, that documented a time during the Bronx that people still talk about today. You know, the Bronx is burning, the Bronx is still bad. But here you had a group of 6 photographers who shot from within the Bronx and showed the beauty of the Bronx. And it was myself, David Gonzalez from the New York Times, Angel Franco from New York Times, Ricky Flores from the Bronx, Francisco Reyes, who taught me photography
There you go.
from the Bronx, and Ricky Flores, you know,
Edwin
and
Pagan.
Edwin Pagan. You know, all born and raised in the Bronx. And it was a phenomenal show. It ran at the Bronx Documentary Center for a good 2
And
months.
so now is the next go-around from those days till today.
Till today.
Right.
It's like we've been shooting for many, many years.
You know,
so.
we're going to show a number of those photographs, the ones that Joe took, and so don't go away. Bobby, let's just talk a little bit about music and the development of music, and we'll talk briefly about the Music Heritage Center, and we're going to let you play and stuff like that. But just talk to me about growing up in the Bronx and kind of developing new styles of music, really, because we, as Bronxites, invented a whole new way of looking at music. So let's talk about that.
Well, what people don't realize is the Bronx at one time had more nightclubs, catering halls, theaters, et cetera, ballrooms than Manhattan at one time. And that led to a thriving, not only jazz music scene in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, but an incredible Latin music scene. Of course, unfortunately, the infrastructure of all those clubs was destroyed all these catering halls, clubs, etc., was destroyed with the burnings that happened in the 70s
And
in
the
Bronx,
collapse of the economy, I mean, it's a
etc.,
whole host
etc.
of
The
things.
city went bankrupt, social services were cut, etc., etc. I mean, we could get into that for a couple of shows, which I'm sure you have already in past shows. But what we're doing at the Bronx Music Heritage Center is bringing that culture back, and part of that is having this great exhibit of these incredible photographers that documented the time period when the Bronx was burning. But what kept us alive, all of us, those of the people that are watching that can remember and live through that, is the music scene.
Sure.
The music kept us alive. What we call salsa today, Afro-Cuban based dance music, was thriving in the Bronx, and most of the musicians that contributed to the New York approach of playing that music, which we call salsa today, came from the South Bronx. People like National Endowment of the Arts Jazz Master Ray Barretto, National Endowment of the Arts Jazz Master pianist Eddie Palmieri. Ray was a percussionist, and the great Orlando Marin from the Alegre All-Stars, and many other great musicians.
I'm going to add one name, and a number of years ago on this program and on our daytime show, I spent a lot of time with Willie Colon talking about
Yes.
those days. And he told me something, and I didn't live in that part of the Bronx, so I didn't live it, but I want to ask both of you about it. He said it was just so bursting with culture, with this energy, that you'd walk out in the street and you couldn't help but be enveloped by it, right?
Exactly.
And I'm assuming that inspired you.
Of course. I mean, on any given day in the summertime in the Bronx, but not only in the Bronx, in South Brooklyn and in Spanish Harlem, you would hear the sound of conga drums somewhere going on in the distance, playing what we call rumba, which is a type of Cuban rhythm, dance, and music that involves just percussion, conga drums, voices, and dance. And that would be resonating. To give you an example, you'd hear something like this.
It's almost like you hear the Mr. Softy truck, right? You'd walk outside and it would be out in the air.
Well, I say that all the time, that in the Bronx at that time, the first day of summer, you'd hear the sound of the Mr. Softy truck and that, the sound
And the
of conga
music in the
drums.
park. Yeah.
Last question before we go to Joe, and we're going to show some of his work. Were you aware that something was happening, that this was the beginning of a new culture or a new way or something that was going to last? Or was it just, well, we do it, and then years later you said, hey, look what we made?
Well, as a youth, you're just involved in the scene, and you're just being inspired by it. But what's interesting to me is that Dr. Mark Nason, the head of Black Studies at Fordham University, stated that in no other place in the United States has more music been produced than the South Bronx. And the only other place is Treme in New Orleans, Louisiana.
I was thinking maybe Nashville or something like that, but we won't dispute Dr. Nason. He's been a longtime friend of the program, but I understand what he's talking about. Mostly from talking with you, Eddie Palmieri had been on this show a number of years ago, and we had the same conversation. So Joe, as a photographer, you know, it's just another way of looking at really the same thing. You must have said, oh my goodness, there's this world out here. And as a young man, grew up and said, I got to capture it.
Basically, yes. I mean, I was a chubby little kid with an Angela Davis.
We were going there, man.
With an Angela Davis afro, walking around with a camera, to have captured, you know, the other part of what Bobby's talking about, the beginning of hip hop music in the Bronx. And, you know, through my archives today, I've been traveling the world.
You know, there's all this rhythmic music, and we're not even going to talk about it today, but then, of course, you know, on Arthur Avenue and beyond, and that whole
The rock scene, the rock and R&B scene, doo-wop, everything.
Unbelievable. All right, Joe, let's, we've got CDs. We're going to talk about some of Bobby's stuff, but let's start with pictures. So let's put up the first thing. And let's talk about what we're looking at. And these are things people will see at the
upcoming show.
Okay? So what do we got?
This photograph is by my mentor, my teacher, Francisco Reyes, and he's doing his...
so it's not your picture?
No, these pictures represent
everybody.
all of us. And he did a series called the Invisible Man series. So this is one of his pictures that he took.
And do we know what, where it's from or any of the origins or anything? Maybe we could get rid of the logo. As much as I love having my Bronxtalk logo.
Yeah,
There we go.
the city, here in the city.
Looks like Francisco. His
Yeah.
silhouette. Yeah.
His silhouette with his
you go.
Che Guevara hat.
There you go. Next, let's keep popping them
Yeah.
up there. What do we got? We changing the picture? There we go. This one I love. Is this Arthur?
That's
Looks like Arthur
Yes, it is.
Aviles.
Yes.
Yes,
The choreographer dancing.
yes, and that is shot by David Gonzalez, and that's one of his
Do you know what
shots.
street?
That's
That's it.
right near the Park Chester section,
Yes.
near Castle Hill.
Oh, there we
A
go.
few blocks
Okay.
down,
Yes,
the intersection of
You
Castle
know,
Hill
I
and
was looking at this
Westchester.
picture before the show. What I love about it is he's almost like dancing in midair, and you wonder, is he landing, on that same platform, or is he coming
it probably
forward on
is,
the stoop?
But David's a phenomenal photographer himself.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
I love the image of the train, but it's like rising, the subway rising,
There
like
you go.
as-
And again, what I learned from the original Seis del Sur program we did
Yeah.
was there was such life in the black and white of the
Yes.
city and the gray. of
I
the
say
city.
all the
And
time,
you see it right here, just
I
bursting
say black
off.
and white is more colorful.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, let's go next. What do we got?
Yeah. That's one of my shots of, I'm known as the man who took hip hop's baby pictures. That was at the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival, which yesterday just celebrated the 10th anniversary, and that's just one of my shots. But most importantly, what his shirt is saying.
I was
Guns
going to
kill.
say that
Yeah.
the center of focus
Yeah.
of that is
Yeah.
undoubtedly
Yeah, it says a
the
lot.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
Do we know who he is?
That's DJ Scratch from EPMD.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And-
There's that life in the Bronx.
Yeah, that life, the culture, and that is an Edwin Pagan picture.
And Bobby, what is he playing there?
That's actually a fiberglass representation of a folkloric instrument from Puerto Rico known as a guicharo or guiro. It's made out of a thin calabash gourd, and it's used in the music of the mountain countryside, Jibaro music, which is music of the peasants, the farmers. And that's a modern fiberglass representation of it, and the gentleman is playing it, and he's in joyous ecstasy playing it.
I'm gonna ask a question that we're gonna ask later. How easy is it to get an instrument like that, or are most of the instruments like that made and just created?
Well,
Because you're going to show us some stuff that I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you the same question.
what's happening now, first of all, that instrument in its natural state is very, very fragile because it comes from a plant called higuera, and it's very thin. So if you sit on it, drop it, it's just going to
Try not to do that.
Yeah, it's
Note
just,
to self.
yeah, it's just it'll just crack. So it's very difficult to get that instrument from the island. You can get it, but you have to know artisans that make it, etc. And
So I'll call you.
so this company, actually, you see the logo LP at the top, designed this unbreakable one, which is very, very close to the original sound of the natural instrument.
Okay, let's go.
That's another Edwin Pagan photograph. Edwin, is a phenomenal filmmaker. He's did a documentary on the Bronx is burning, and he just has a phenomenal eye.
As a photographer, and then I know we can't ask Edwin about
Yeah.
that specific, but is that one of those that you say, gee, I was there at the right time, or do you think he actually saw it and saw the two images and got it together?
I can't speak for Edwin, but I can speak for myself where you don't know it until you see it later on. I mean, I like shooting a series of shots, and you don't see
And then all
that
of a
money
sudden-
shot until later on.
later on.
And it's like, wow, everything is in focus, the composition is right, the girls, it's just a phenomenal
It
shot.
also could be, now I've only been quite an amateur photographer in comparison, but a lot of times you'll see it and say, gee, I hope she leans to the right a little bit because then I'll get it, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Just spectacular.
It's a lot of good imagery there.
Oh,
Yes.
my
You got
goodness.
the corn represents food, life.
Yes.
The girl that represents youth,
Youth.
vitality, life.
And the
spirituality.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
guess that's the
also-
Virgin of Guadalupe, right?
Guadalupe.
I just cannot get away from the comparison of the girl and the image on the
Yeah.
shirt. I mean,
Yeah.
that just strikes me immediately. All right, keep going. Here we go.
That's another one of my shots. Again, shot in Brooklyn. No offense to my beloved borough, the Bronx. Again, I just like shooting the music scene, and this is actually Redman from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh yeah.
And he did a concert out in Brooklyn last year, and
You
have
could
the-
almost
the- the-
mistake it for a political rally. Too.
there you go, all right. But you have the Brooklyn
Pass.
the overpass over there,
Right.
and,
On the,
just
on the BQE.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly
you can
where
see
it's
it.
at.
Well, Brooklyn is defined because you can see the bridge. Obviously.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along. We want to make sure we have some time for music.
And that's
That's your afro, bro, on the T-shirt.
that T-shirt is. That picture was, I think, Ricky Flores or no, Ricky shot that. Yeah, Ricky Flores shot that, and that's a graffiti artist named Cyanide who does beautiful murals.
Yeah.
Also wearing a shirt of me. That's a picture
That
of
is
me when I was 17 years old.
Oh, so he wasn't
with my
lying about the
afro
Angela Davis thing.
and with all the hip hop pioneers' names inside my afro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but Ricky took that picture.
All right, next. This one, somebody upstairs said this is too spooky to be believed.
That is Francisco Reyes again, my mentor, my teacher.
That
part of
looks
his-
like holding on to the subway.
I think
car.
it is a subway car door or something like that.
It's
I mean,
a-
I haven't been on a subway in 20
Right.
years, but
Well, you go to the show on the 25th, and you'll be able to ask
Yeah.
him directly. All right, next.
Definitely.
What do we got?
Ricky Flores, it's a beautiful shot. I can't really explain it, but
It's fine.
it's just
Just
a
enjoy it.
beautiful shot of the community and the people in the
The
community.
BX.
Yeah.
All right, so now we know this is Friday the 25th at the
Bronx Music Heritage
Bronx
Center.
Yes.
Music Heritage Center, which our friend here talks about with pride. All right, so we're moving over. Let's talk about the Bronx Music Heritage Center.
Well, the Bronx Music Heritage Center is located at 1303 Louis 9 Boulevard, which is, if you take the 205 train, you get off at Freeman Street. Very accessible to anybody from any part of the city. And for the last 2 years, myself and my co-curator, partner in time, as I say, the great folklorist and cultural anthropologist Elena Martinez, we've been curating as artists, as artistic directors, this gallery space that holds about a maximum about 100 people. We've been having incredible events, music, theater, art, poetry. We've had even New York Times best-selling authors there being interviewed. So the community.
And it's at Wedco, right?
Well, WEDCO is the sponsoring
The
nonprofit
sponsoring
organization, and
organization,
WEDCO
okay.
is the Women's Home Economic Development Corporation that's been building affordable housing in the South Bronx. That's also green housing, and it's incredible what they've been doing. Kudos to Nancy Bieberman, who founded the
Big
organization.
shout out to Nancy
course.
Bieberman.
What's the goal? What's the objective? What's
The goal is to bring back the cultural landscape that was destroyed by the fires, and the infrastructural landscape that was destroyed, but also the cultural landscape that was destroyed, and bring that back to the Bronx, to Bronxites in all its forms. We've had Irish music there, we've had Jewish music, all these communities that were at one time very vibrant in the South Bronx and are still vibrant in different parts of the Bronx, all the forms of music, et cetera, et cetera. So the goal is, at the end of this year, ground will be broken on 164th Street and Melrose Avenue, literally 10 blocks away from where I grew up on East 153rd in Cortlandt Avenue in the Melrose Projects, for the new Bronx Music Heritage Center Performing Arts Center,
Wow.
which will include a 250-seat theater, a recording studio,
my goodness.
housing for elderly musicians, an outside amphitheater, a
So-
restaurant, all of this.
So
And
when you look at all the issues that we deal with on this show every week, the way I characterize that is win, 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 win,
Exactly.
win, win.
And it's going to happen because the de Blasio administration has approved it. We've already had meetings with the architects and seen the architectural schematics and
That is
everything.
just unbelievably
So,
exciting.
yeah.
You must be thrilled.
Oh man, I'm energized because I'm a lifelong Bronxite. I was born and raised here, and everywhere I go in the world, I have to defend the borough.
Yes.
Because people usually, when you say you're from New York, they take a step back. When they say you're from the Bronx, they take another step back. When you say you're from the South Bronx, they take three steps back.
We'll go in the other room.
Yeah.
I do want to show this. Jane can give you a close-up. This is K. Biba Harlem, right, which is the most recent. Yeah, we got it.
That's the most recent CD I've produced.
CD that you put out. This was nominated for a Grammy. That's the one that I've got in my hand. They're going to put that on the screen.
Multiverse, yeah. 2 Grammys, actually.
2
years
Grammys.
ago, yeah.
And there was one other one which they said, Joe, they're going to put that up on the screen, that Joe Conzo.
I shot
What
the
is
cover.
this? What is this?
That was the previous album that came out in before Multiverse of my own big band that came out in 2009. That was also nominated for a Grammy, and that's on the Grand Concourse right across from the courthouse, and it was the coldest day of the year. And Joe tells me, sit up on the
post box.
on the post box, on the mailbox there.
Just like you did when you were a kid.
And but the difference is that in that cold weather, it's skin on metal is not conducive to like any kind of pleasure at all.
Nonetheless, the instrument which you brought, and I want you to show us that instrument.
Sure.
Show us what it is.
This.
So I wasn't going to mention Captain America, right?
Well, it's actually the Puerto Rican flag. A lot of people joke that Captain America is Puerto Rican.
Of course.
But this is an instrument that we use in our culture, especially Afro-Cuban culture. It's a religious instrument, actually, called she quere, but it's been adapted to the secular world, and it's a combination of a drum and a shaker. So it's used in ceremonial music known as bembe, in the Santeria tradition, which comes from the Yoruba people in West Africa, a tradition known as Ifa. It's their sacred beliefs, and they have many deities, and songs are sung in praise to these different deities, and they all represent different aspects of nature. So I'm going to sing a little song for Oya, which is the female deity of the wind, and also the cemetery. The guardian
You're
of
going
the
to do that
cemetery.
right now?
I'll do it right now.
All right, let's do it.
So we're going to
let it roll.
Okay, so I'm going to tap out the mantra of the music, which is clave, which we inherited from West Africa. Oloyate, ibaribachekete, oloyate, ibaribachekete, agoima golona, oya la pinga ele oloyate.
You know what I have to say, and Joe, I'm sure you were conscious of that as I was. He has such a feel, even for an instrument like that. You could just see it's part of his body when you.
Oh, thank you.
That's what makes him a great musician.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You brought us some other instruments, and we're
Well-
learning about the heritage of the Bronx and the heritage of Bronx music.
Well, all of these instruments represent some aspect of our culture. This represents, obviously, our tie to Africa, where we inherited all these different rhythms, and they evolved in different ways on all of the islands, particularly Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic and Haiti. But this is an instrument that ties us to our Amerindian culture. They're known as maracas. Okay, and basically, in the way we use them today in what's called salsa, which is Afro-Cuban-based dance music, as we interpret it here in New York City, we use leather ones. Originally,
I was going to ask what that material is.
yeah, you can see it. It's sewn leather.
I'm trying to get a little rhythm here.
Yeah,
Practice.
yeah.
And inside is
Seeds.
just
You know, some craftsmen today use different types of metal materials. Some people even use metal shot. Or
when you're creating music like these CDs that you have and other things, is there a script where you say, oh, we're going to create it and I'm going to use one of these, or is it a feel? Say, you know what, this doesn't sound right, let me try this.
Well, the music, the way it's evolved in terms of different styles of music and rhythms that these instruments are used for the appropriate style of music. For example, we play a style of music called son, which is the foundation of what we call salsa. It was developed in Eastern Cuba. I mean, son comes from the Latin word sonus, which means sound or song. Mm-hmm. Song is the fundamental rhythm style that we use in what we call salsa today. And in song, the maracas are very important. So I'm going to sing part of an old classic Cuban.
Only it's got to be quick. So
okay.
Do it.
So again, we have the clave. Estoy tan enamorado de la negrita Tomasa que cuando se va de casa, pero que triste me pongo. Óyelo bien, ay, óyelo bien, ay, óyelo bien, ay. Oye, ya mi son, esa negra que linda Santa Cámara que es medio bilongo. Esa negra linda Santa Cámara que es medio bilongo. That was a song that Eddie Palmieri made very popular back when I was growing up.
Real quick, this is
Well, this is you were showing the guicharo from Puerto Rico. This is the guiro as it manifests itself in Cuba. So, again, here this is a modern adaptation. Originally, this would be made out of gourd, calabash.
plastic.
But this is fiberglass. Yeah.
fiberglass.
So it's indestructible.
Just give us the sound, because then we're going to move to the last one.
Again, it's used in all forms of different rhythms in salsa, but particularly the song, and especially the cha-cha-cha. You can't have the cha-cha-cha without the guiro. And I'm going to sing a little bit of a song that everybody knows. Oye, ¿cómo va? Mi ritmo, pero pa' gozar. Mulata, oye, ¿cómo va?
Who did that song, Gary?
Mi ritmo,
Who did that? You asked me?
Yeah.
mulata.
No,
Well,
Tito Puente.
oh, Tito
wrote it.
He's
Puente,
the
of
composer,
course.
but everybody knows
Santana.
Santana's version.
And these last two, real quick.
This is the foundation of the music, the mantra we live by, what we call the clave. The rhythm actually comes from West and Central Africa, but we have two types of clave. The clave of song
Here we
that
got
sounds
1
like this.
minute in the show. So
You
go
got
ahead.
it. You got it. The clave of song that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. For song-based music, like what I was singing before. And then we got the clave of rumba, which is a little bit more syncopated. Listen to the difference. Here we go. Okay.
Joe Conzo and Bobby Sanabria, we will see you all at the Bronx Music Heritage Center. And what's the address?
1303 Louis 9 Boulevard. Take the 2 or the 5. 2 Freeman Street. And also, we'd like to let you know that August is Salsa Month. So we're going to be having a big celebration of that music in August. And if this airs sooner than later, on the 19th of this month, we're going to be having a celebration of the spirit of Anya, the female spirit of the drum from Africa, from the Yoruba people, at the Bronx Music Heritage Center on the 19th, all day.
Gentlemen, we just can't thank you enough for everything you have done here in the Bronx, and that we continue to do, and use our music, our photography, our culture, our arts to just make us all better.
Thank you.
Make life better in the Bronx. We really
Most
appreciate it, and I will be there, and so I hope you will be there too. If you have further comments or questions, what comment could you have other than thank God for these guys? But you can certainly send it to us at Bronx Talk. You can email it to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org. You can post them on our Facebook page. We'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. You can become a fan of Bronx Talk on Facebook, whatever you'd like. You can see our archives at bronxnet.org. You check out the Bronx Talk link on the bottom right navigation bar, and then you can see all the old shows. Thanks to producer Jane Floro. Our director is Neilani Rodriguez. We'll see you next week. We'll see them and you Friday night.
Awesome.
Good night.
Thank you.